Hello. Food Fight exists because a film executive mistakenly assumed that anyone has ever emotionally identified with a grocery mascot. This is the same mistake that created the Emoji Movie. I have no emotional investment in emoji. These faces and images mean nothing to me apart from how I might use them to spice up a text message. Conversely, the Lego Movie works because Legos mean something to you. Maybe because you remember that one December evening when you built a little X-Wing in the dim light of a fireplace. But when you see the P-Man, you only think of peas. So bringing the P-Man to life through the miracle of animation is foolish. It brings you no joy. It only reminds you of the monotony of grocery shopping. Of standing in the frozen foods aisle and briefly catching your aging reflection in the cold humming glass. It makes you wonder how you ended up in this place. And how you ended up there alone. But the lame premise isn't the only thing that made this movie so infamous. It's also an absolute nightmare to look at. Between the jerky motion capture, the gross and uneven textures, the general fever dream vibe, that ball liquid thing that you see sometimes, Food Fight is truly the gold standard for this sort of thing. The story of this movie's failure is pretty well known. It was supposed to come out in the early 2000s, but it was in development hell for a decade, allegedly because someone, some hero, really, stole all of the original footage and they never got it back. So the movie ended up costing big money, and didn't arrive until 2012. Consider that length of time. While Food Fight was in production, cell phones became a cultural norm, and then Wi-Fi, and then smartphones. We got the last Lord of the Rings and the first Hobbit, 1.5 presidencies, 2.5 men, the PS3. Suffice it to say, it still feels very much like a 2003 movie.
How can I help? Upload? Download? Scan?
Ah, yes.
The three functions of computer.
Yet another thing that set this movie up for failure is that it was directed by Lawrence Kasanoff, executive producer of Chud 2, Bud the Chud. He also produced Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I made a video about that movie in 2016, and at the end, I referenced Food Fight. It's all coming together! Anyway, despite being a totally irredeemable garbage festival, this movie, in a way, is still a piece of film history. So it's worth noting. Sorry, I misread that. It's worth nothing. In Food Fight, there is a supermarket. At night, it becomes a little world, and all the brands come to life and start spouting insufferable jokes, like Twitter, haha. Every one of these little creatures and characters is horrible. Actually, that's not true. I like the Big Moose. I'm comforted by his big, silly New York City voice.
Hey, I like you too!
But the rest of them are bad to see and hear. They're all very active, just bursting with life. Not like a lush rainforest, though, more like something that's infested with termites. Worst of all is Christopher Lloyd's character, but at least his behavior kind of makes sense given that he's actually a giant robot piloted by a prune Nazi. We'll get to that. The protagonist of Food Fight is Dex Dogtective, voiced by Charlie Sheen, remember? Dex is the mascot for Cinnamon Sleuth. It's blue cinnamon cereal. It's like even the simplest design instincts just weren't there. Dex has ears. 6 months later, Dex is now a Casablanca dog, because kids love classic film references. Dex meets a weasel. Dex is sad and he's drinking. For him, milk is like alcohol because he's a breakfast cereal. Shouldn't it be like his water? Nazis, remember from world history? Anyways, Lady X tries to seduce Dex because it's fun for kids to watch and it's fun for adults to watch kids watch that. Then she takes over the USDA, the United Supermarket Defense Association. Other things that USDA could stand for: ultimate spinning dive attack, unfortunate salad dressing accident, smoking big doinks in Amish. Listen. In the next scene, Dex seizes, and squeezes the weasel. All of Cheesel's scenes end with him being terribly injured. I think I am expected to enjoy this because he's a revolting little cretin, but I don't. Bloodsport won't appease me, I just wish you weren't here. Anyways, Lady X tries to seduce Dex. She tries to sex Dex, and then she uses a drying machine as a dying machine. The Nazis start doing their thing, which is killing. Sometimes they string people up and beat them to death. Other times they drill them in a dark torture room. I'm not an expert on what kids, do, but I feel like if you showed this to a child, they would just instantly age, like, oh no. So Dex and Dan go into the store during the daytime when it's full of shoppers. This scene is enlightening. The people behind Food Fight see the average American consumer as a frenzied, ugly, helpless monster. Dex says,
"Let's strawberry jam out of here."
But he could just say, let's jam. The pun would still be there and it would still be terrible. There are roughly 56 bad, terrible, awful puns spoken aloud in this movie. I know because I counted. Some of the worst include,
I just can't throw in the paper towel on Dan. The oven timer's ticking.
You handed me this store on a party platter.
My problems are just a hill of coffee beans compared to our store.
Hey guys, it's me, Elmer's Glue. You want to play some football?
The conflict continues escalating. Lady X gives a for realsies Nazi speech.
We must send all the undesirables where they belong. expiration station.
And the brands all reenact a scene from Casablanca, but for like they do the whole scene. I wonder if the film references are an attempt to convince people that they are indeed watching a movie and not just a writhing abomination wearing a movie's skin. Maybe that's why there are posters for 12 Hungry Men, Melon Rouge, It's a Wonderful Lime, Singing in the Drain, Requiem for a Whipped Cream, Dial B for Burger. Also, from this point on in the movie, certain characters' voices are suddenly compressed.
I'm fine, nobody saw that.
All the lightning rods are in place, I guarantee it.
I have many theories on why this is, and none of them are interesting. We begin the food fight proper. Everything for the next 30-plus minutes is food fighting. The food launches the first attack. The good food throws food at the bad food, but the bad food also throws food at the good food. Brave men and they throw dump hot chocolate, assorted produce, baked goods, snot pies from the skies, peas, ketchup, they launch the pickles, birds with gum, donut drum. The next thing that happens in the movie of the food fight is that all the little guys all create lightning rods out of tin foil and then put them on all the buildings except for the bad Nazi building, the big bad tall Nazi building, and then they get that slimy Cheezel to go knock over a power line so it creates lightning, and the lightning strikes the Nazis. In the midst of all that, this little penguin gets injected and dies. It's pretty gruesome. I'd just like to reiterate that this movie was made by miserable people who hate life, or at the very least, they hated this movie, because by this point, there are a lot of little animation things that seem to have been added in a screw-it mentality. Like in this shot, where in the last few frames, this bat's face crumples up like a demon, and this motion that Dex does.
How did you get in and out of the store? You're an Ike.
I really feel like these were added in contempt. So they rescue the cat lady, Hilary Duff, by the way. The bad guys kidnapped her so they could use her essence in their evil addictive chemical compound called Elixir. So the secret ingredient was the essence of raisins. Or I guess cat raisins? Craisins? Thank you to my patrons for funding this video. Next we learn that Christopher Lloyd is a robot. The robot is the lady. Apparently she could just come and go out of the store as she pleased because...
Humans! When you look like this, you can get them to do anything.
Let me ask you something. If you saw a 6-inch tall woman, and she said, "Don't tell anyone," would you not tell anyone?
The bimbo's mine!
Thank you, Hilary Duff, age 15. So, they find an antidote to cure all the brands that the bad brand killed. The penguin is there now, he's in a chair. We don't see many chairs in this movie, but this one shows up here, and then here, and then again here. I'm sure the animators spent a lot of time creating all these little guys, you know, the hairless hamsters and the pale jumping creature, but you couldn't make just a few more chairs? Just 2 more? So we're wrapping up and— Wait, who was that? Could it be? Are you the man from My Bagels? In conclusion, Daredevil Dan talks to some human women while they silently gyrate, and Dex is Jewish. The brands have organized religion. There's a big cathedral at the opening of the film, so it adds up. I doubt that anyone in Marketopolis has genuine faith, though. My guess is that the only thing these disgusting little freaks worship is the almighty dollar. Thank you for watching. I will now use my powers to make Dex Dogtective real.